Hello Jerry, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Hello Joanna, I'm great. How about you?
I am doing well, thanks. So, let us start by talking about React and Vue. What do you think are the positive aspects of React?
Well, I think one of the positive aspects of React is its flexibility. It can be used for both web and mobile development. Another positive aspect is the large and active community, which provides great support and resources for developers. Additionally, React has a component-based architecture, which makes it easy to reuse and maintain code.
I agree with you on those points. What do you think are some negative aspects of React?
One of the negative aspects of React is the steep learning curve, especially for beginners. It can take some time to get used to the JSX syntax and the component-based architecture. Another negative aspect is that React doesn't provide a lot of out-of-the-box features, so developers may have to rely on third-party libraries to add functionality.
That's true. Now, what do you think are the strong points of Vue?
One of the strong points of Vue is its simplicity. It has a small API, which makes it easy to learn and use. Another strong point is the ease of integration with existing projects. Vue can be gradually introduced to a project, and it works well with other libraries and frameworks.
Yes, Vue is known for its simplicity and ease of use. What do you think are some weaknesses of Vue?
One weakness of Vue is the smaller community compared to React. This can make it harder to find resources and support for certain issues. Another weakness is the lack of maturity compared to React. Vue is a newer framework, so it may not have all the features and tools that React has.
That's a good point. Let us talk about the knowledge necessary to work with React and Vue. What do you think developers need to know to work with React?
Developers working with React need to know JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. They should also have a good understanding of the React library and its component-based architecture. Additionally, it's helpful to know how to use tools like Webpack and Babel.
I agree. What about Vue?
Developers working with Vue need to know JavaScript, HTML, and CSS as well. They should also have a good understanding of the Vue library and its reactive data binding system. Additionally, it's helpful to know how to use tools like Vuex and Vue Router.
Great. Let us move on to the steps necessary to run a project in local. Can you walk me through the steps for React?
Sure. First, you'll need to install Node.js and npm. Then, you can create a new project using Create React App. After that, you can start the development server by running npm start in the terminal.
And how about Vue?
Right. And one of the advantages of Vue is that it has a simpler syntax than React, making it easier to learn and get started with.
Definitely. I also like that Vue has a better integration with templates, which can help speed up development. But on the other hand, React has a more powerful ecosystem, with a larger community and a wider range of libraries available.
That's true, and it also has better performance in certain situations, thanks to the use of a virtual DOM.
Yes, but Vue has some unique features, like its built-in state management system, Vuejs, which can simplify complex applications.
That's a good point. And when it comes to running a project in local, what steps do you usually follow?
For React, I usually start by creating a new project with the Create React App tool, which sets up a basic development environment with all the necessary dependencies. Then I use npm or yarn to install any additional packages I need, and start the development server with the npm start command.
That sounds pretty similar to the process in Vue. I usually use the Vue CLI to create a new project, which also sets up a development environment with all the necessary dependencies. Then I use npm or yarn to install any additional packages, and start the development server with the npm run serve command.
Yes, the processes are pretty similar. And when it comes to libraries, what are some of your favorites for React?
Well, for state management, I really like Redux, which provides a predictable way to manage the application state. And for UI components, I often use Material UI or Ant Design, which provide pre-built components that can be easily customized.
Those are some great options. For Vue, I really like Vuejs for state management, and for UI components, I often use Vuetify or Element UI, which offer a wide range of customizable components.
Yeah, I've used Vuetify before and it's really great. And when it comes to CSS libraries, what do you prefer to use?
For React, I often use Tailwind CSS, which provides a set of pre-built classes that can be easily customized. But I also like using Sass for more complex styles.
I see. For Vue, I also use Tailwind CSS quite a bit, but I've also used Bootstrap and Sass in the past.
That's interesting. And when it comes to workflow apps, what do you prefer to use?
I usually use Asana, which provides a great way to manage tasks and collaborate with team members.
That's a good one. I also like Trello, which provides a simple and intuitive way to manage tasks and projects.
Yeah, I've used Trello before and it's really great. And what about version control? Which system do you prefer to use?
I usually use Git, which provides a great way to manage code changes and collaborate with team members.
Same here. I think Git is the most popular and widely used version control system out there.
Definitely, it's a great tool. And speaking of collaboration, have you ever had to work with a backend developer on a project?
Yes, I have. And it can be a bit challenging, especially if there are differences in the technologies being used. But it's important to establish clear communication and define a clear API interface to make sure the front-end and back-end can work together seamlessly.
Yes, that's definitely important. And when it comes to deploying a project, do you usually use any specific tools or services? Yes, that's right. In React, the state is managed by a component, and you can update the state using setState method. And, when the state changes, the component is re-rendered with the new data. It's quite efficient.
That sounds great. In Vue, you use a reactive system where the data is wrapped in a reactive object. Any changes to the data automatically update the view. It's called the one-way data flow. It's easy to understand and use.
I see. That sounds interesting. Another difference is the use of virtual DOM in React. It has a lightweight copy of the actual DOM, and it helps in updating the actual DOM more efficiently.
In Vue, we also use a virtual DOM, but it's not as pronounced as in React. We use a template-based syntax, which is easy to read and understand.
That's true. But React also has some advantages over Vue. For example, React has a large community, and there are plenty of resources available for learning and development.
Yes, but Vue also has a strong community, and it's growing rapidly. It's also easier to learn for beginners because of its simpler syntax.
That's true. But what about the knowledge necessary to work with these frameworks? What do you think?
Well, for Vue, you need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and some knowledge of TypeScript would be beneficial. Also, you need to know the Vue API and its lifecycle methods. Okay, let's talk about running a project in local. What are the steps necessary for both frameworks?
For React, you need to have Node.js installed, and then you can use Create React App to start a new project. You can run the project by typing npm start in the terminal.
For Vue, you need to install Node.js as well, and then you can use Vue CLI to start a new project. You can run the project by typing npm run serve in the terminal.
Okay, now let us talk about libraries that can help get better results in each framework. What do you think?
Well, for Vue, there are many libraries available like Vuex, Vue Router, and Axios. They help in managing state, routing, and making HTTP requests.
For React, there are also many libraries available like Redux, React Router, and Axios. They help in managing state, routing, and making HTTP requests as well.
Do you think a backend is necessary to work in local?
It depends on the project. If the project requires a backend, then yes, you need to have a backend running in local. Otherwise, you can use mock data to test the front end.
What about CSS libraries? Which one do you prefer to work with in each framework?
For React, I prefer to use Tailwind CSS because it provides a lot of utility classes that make it easy to style components. For Vue, I prefer to use Sass because it has more powerful features like variables and mix-ins.
Okay, let's talk about workflow apps. Which one do you use?
I use Asana to manage my tasks and projects. It is quite easy to use, and it helps me stay organized.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. One thing that I like about Vue is that it has better documentation than React. It is much easier to learn and has a lower learning curve.
That is true. React can be difficult to learn, especially for beginners. It is more complex than Vue and requires a lot of knowledge about JavaScript and JSX.
Yes, React is definitely more complex. But I think it has some advantages over Vue. For example, React is better at handling large-scale applications. It is also more flexible and can be used with different libraries and tools.
I see your point. Vue is great for small to medium-sized applications, but React is better for larger projects. However, I think that Vue has better performance because it is lighter and faster.
Yes, Vue is definitely faster because it uses a virtual DOM that is optimized for performance. React also uses a virtual DOM, but it is not as optimized as Vue.
That is true. Vue also has better built-in features for state management and data binding. You don't need to use third-party libraries like Redux or Mobx to manage your application state.
React has similar built-in features, but they are not as powerful as Vue. You need to use external libraries like Redux or Mobx to manage complex states.
That is a good point. In terms of CSS libraries, what do you prefer to use in React?
I usually use Tailwind CSS with React because it provides a lot of utility classes that make it easy to style components. But I also use CSS modules and SCSS when necessary. Right, those are all great libraries. For workflow, I use Asana to manage tasks and collaborate with team members. What about you?
I also use Asana. It is a great tool for managing projects and tasks. I also use GitHub for version control and Gitkraken as my Git client.
Same here. GitHub is an essential tool for any developer, and Gitkraken makes it much easier to manage Git repositories.
Absolutely. In terms of backend, do you think it is necessary to have a backend to work on a project locally?
It depends on the project. If you're working on a front-end only project, then you don't need a backend. But if you're working on a full-stack project, then you need a backend to test and debug your code.
That is true. In general, I think it is always better to have a backend, even if it has just a simple one, to make sure that everything works as expected.
Agreed. In summary, both React and Vue have their strengths and weaknesses. React is more complex and better for large-scale projects, while Vue is simpler and better for small to medium-sized projects. Both frameworks have great libraries and tools that can help you get better results. And when it comes to workflow and version control, Asana and GitHub are essential tools for any developer. That's great to hear. I think it's important to keep exploring new tools and frameworks to keep our skills up to date and to make sure we're using the best tools for the job.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, it has been great chatting with you today, Jerry. Thanks for sharing your insights and experiences with React.
Likewise, Joanna. It's always great to talk with fellow developers and learn from each other. I hope we can chat again soon.
Me too. Have a great day, Jerry.
You too, Joanna. Goodbye.